Hello, so in today's video I'm going to be talking about the book Fluke by James Herbert, and I haven't read any James Herbert books in quite a while. I've read quite a few of his horror novels and I've always enjoyed them, and I was in a bit of a reading rut. Well, I'm still in kind of a reading rut really, but I couldn't decide what to pick, and I've set this goal for myself where before I go on like a nice big book shopping spree, I want to try and get rid of as many books as I can and read all of my unread books. So that's my challenge for the rest of this year. So I said to my husband, I set my shelves up and I pointed out all the ones I hadn't read. I was like, okay, this is a book, this on this shelf, these are all the books I haven't read. Pick a book for me to read, because I couldn't decide, and he picked out this one. And I wasn't really in the mood for it. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll pick that one because you chose it. And he was like, well, you can pick another one if you want. And I was like, no, you chose this one, so this is the one I'm going to start reading. And yeah, I wasn't really like in the mood for it. But then as I started reading it, I actually really began to enjoy this story. It's quite an unusual one. I don't know if you'd describe it as a horror. He's normally a horror writer, James Herbert. He's written quite a few books. And this one sounded really intriguing to me. I remember when I picked it up, I was grabbing the rest of his book series in the Rats trilogy. And then I spotted this one as well. And I was like, I'll give this one a go. And I thought it was going to be like a sci-fi horror kind of. So it says on the back, he's a stringy mongrel wandering the streets of the city, driven by a ravenous hunger and hunting a quarry he could not define, but he is something more. Somewhere in the depths of his consciousness, the memory is clawing its way to the surface. So this story is basically a man trapped in a dog's body. Which, yeah, when I heard of that concept, I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be like some kind of sci-fi thing, sci-fi horror, where this guy gets trapped in a dog's body and he's got to find a way out. But that's not quite what the story is. The way it's written, as I was reading it, it really reminded me of Black Beauty. So obviously Black Beauty is, that famous horse story. It was a film and a novel. I've watched both, and I've both read the book and watched the film many times. Really enjoyed it. It's one of my favourite classic films. And it reads similar to that, where you're reading from an animal's perspective, but it feels quite human. It's like a human describing animal things, basically. The way they're experiencing the world, the way they view humans, the way they interact with the environment around them. It was really interesting. It starts off as a kind of like friendship novel. Like, it starts off right at the beginning when he's literally a puppy and he ends up in the pound and he has to escape. And then it has a friendship story in here as well between him and another stray dog. They become a duo and he teams up with this other stray dog, and this older stray dog is teaching him the ways of how to survive on the streets as a stray. And yeah, he kind of goes off on this big adventure, and yeah, it was weirdly insightful. I really enjoyed Fluke, the main character, the dog. Yeah, like it says, he's like a man trapped in a dog's body, but he's not got his full memory. He just gets flashes here or there, here and there, but he senses he was something else before he was a dog. And yeah, it was weird. It was a really interesting book. I ended up really enjoying it. I knew I would like the writing style because, like I said, I've read many of James Herbert's books before and I've always liked them. But yeah, this was something different by him. I actually wouldn't describe this as a horror book at all. I'm not really sure how you would categorise this book. Maybe like a friendship story, a companion story, kind of coming of age story, or like a story about acceptance. It was really an interesting one. I would say the last few chapters, where obviously he's going off and he's had all his adventures and he's finally accepted that he wants to know the truth, he wants to know what's happened to him, how he's ended up like this, and he goes in search for some answers. And there's a little bit of drama towards the end of it, but yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think this might actually be a 5-star read for me. If you're a fan of his writing, I'd say definitely pick it up and give it a go. But it's not a horror. I would not class this as a horror. Yeah, it's kind of something else, but definitely worth reading. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give stuff away. But yeah, definitely worth a read. If you are a fan of Black Beauty and you've read that story, you might actually like this as well. Like I said, it's kind of narrated along the same similar kind of vein, but the story is obviously, I'd say this story is definitely more complex, and has different kind of ideas it's trying to put out there. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. Like I said, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give major plot points away. But definitely an interesting one. If you're a fan of James Herbert, read it. If you're a fan of stories from animal perspectives, then also give this a go. And yeah, like a friendship story, because obviously he has a really lovely friendship with this other stray dog who he learns about. He's kind of, this other stray dog ends up being like a mentor for him, so it's like a mentor kind of story as well. So yeah, definitely an interesting one. So that's all I'm going to say on Fluke. I would give this a 5 out of 5. And yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. Have you heard of this book? Let me know your thoughts. What would you categorise this book as? Because yeah, I don't know, if it'd be kind of coming of age, maybe companionship novel. Yeah, it was an interesting one. So yeah, those are my thoughts. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, bye guys.